follow me closely this time, because I'm not gonna hold your hand. We're talking about wheel bearings. We're talking about rotational noise. I'm specifically talking about wheel bearings, but I have to cover some other stuff real quick. This car right here, it's a Copart auction car. Got a bad engine. That's what I prefer to do. That's what I love doing, is I love buying 2.0T Audi Quattros with bad engines, and I love fixing them on my own time, and I enjoy restoring them to their rightful four-wheel, tire gripping, turbocharged, direct injected, 4-cylinder fuel saving pleasure on the road. Right? It could be other stuff, but these are an awesome balance between entry-level luxury, between fast, fun, fuel efficient. We have to make our compromises. We can't have everything all the time. Some of you might be able to, but anyway. Let me try to give you the wheel bearing noise. Are you ready? Let me see if I can do a little bit better. Let's try to see if I can make it happen with the car loud enough that you can hear it, because it's a pretty faint noise. We're gonna have the radio, the AC, the blower, everything off, and we're gonna be on the absolute smoothest possible road that we can find. And you know what else is gonna cause this interference noise? Will be abnormal tire wear. So if you have dainty little hands, you might want to put a rubber glove on first, but what you can typically just do is take your bare hand and just take it over the tire and rub the surface of the tire. If it has any scalloping wear, if it doesn't just feel smooth, like a smooth surface, then it's gonna have noise too. It's gonna have rotational noise. If it has slight divots, scallop wear is what they typically call it. Cupping, that's a very common terminology for it. This can happen. It can happen with improper alignment, typically imbalanced tires. It has to be somewhat bad. A lot of times you're going to feel it if it's going to be bad enough to create cupping wear. You'll see a lot of people don't get their tires balanced every 20,000 miles or so. Most people say 15,000 miles probably. A lot of times on a Quattro, people just put brand new tires on it and they just run them in the same spot right up until they put new tires on it. Am I getting off track? Where was I? I don't suggest doing that though. I can't always cover every base whenever I go off track. I do suggest doing a tire rotation every once in a while with a balance. You're gonna get the best tire wear that way. But let's get back to, so if your tires are all smooth, right, you could also have a broken belt in the tire, but typically you're gonna feel that. It can be a lump, but it can also kind of be a shift, so to where you have a wobble in the tire. So it can have a, all right? There's also brake pulsation. I'm about to do, because I gotta get it done, but this one will be better. The warped brake rotors. All right, that's pretty much all you're gonna, if you have a brake pedal that's pulsating, it's brake rotors. It's typically always front brake rotors. It is what I'm gonna get into it, talk about why it happens and how you can prevent it from happening, if you can prevent it from happening. It happens with more people on one side than it does with the other with how they drive. So we'll talk about driving habits and all that kind of stuff. So there's so much coming. Back on track. First off, when you're trying to listen for this rotational noise, when you suspect a wheel bearing, because that's the number one rotational noise we're gonna get Second to brake noise that's abnormal rotational noise. Brake noise is going to be abnormal rotational noise. It's typically, if you're going to have something close to what a wheel bearing would sound like, it's going to be your brake pads are worn all the way to the metal on metal. There's no more friction material on the brake lining of the brake pad, and it's metal on metal, and you're going to hear a let me get that, my friends, is bare metal brake pads on the rotor. And anytime that happens, there's no chance in saving the rotor anyway. But nowadays, most people don't have a brake lathe to turn a rotor. They don't advise doing that. Cheapos, do that. If you're trying to get rid of a brake rotor warp pulsation issue and you're trying to sell a car, you can do it cheaply if you have a brake lathe. Typically, you're cutting more material off of the brake rotor, so it's going to warp even faster. So never even consider that. But the only time other than that people would cut a rotor is if they're changing the brake pads and the rotor looks perfectly fine. But typically you're always going to be replacing the rotors these days, and most of the rotors that shops and everyone else are going to be putting on the car are cheap. See, I'm getting way off. This is the brake videos. We're going to get into the brake videos, and we're going to talk in depth about what you're getting for your money. Is it going to be worth it to buy good stuff? What are the benefits? What are the downsides? All that. Warranties. Do you buy local at your auto parts store? Do you get it off the internet? Okay, back to wheel bearings. You suspect that there's another noise. There could be like rock caught up in your brakes. They're like, you got a backing plate on your brake rotors so that debris and stuff can't get stuck up in there. But sometimes it works its way behind that backing plate. The reason why I like to road test it to listen to the noise first is, of course, the road testing is the most common sense way of doing it, but it's the easiest way of doing it. But furthermore, when you put the vehicle on the lift and you're trying to listen to it with the vehicle on the lift and the wheels spinning in the air, first off, it's all-wheel drive, so a lot of times only one or two wheels are going to spin. So then you got to go around it and try to stop the wheels that are spinning to try to make the other wheels spin. And when you're doing all this, when in the air, it makes a traction control fault and stuff. Sometimes it depends on the car, but sometimes it'll set a fault and you actually have to hook the scan tool up to it and erase it. Erase the ABS system. It confuses it. Sometimes as well, whenever you try to listen to it on the lift in the air, it doesn't actually have the weight on the bearing, so you can't hear it as well. It still will have an audible noise, but it's more difficult to hear. And they do make this electronic device called chassis ears. I don't personally own one because I've never needed to go to that extent, but it's got these little receivers that you can put on all four corners. It's got 4 different channels, and it's got earphones, and they used to have them where they're wired, but now I think it's Bluetooth, and I'm sure it probably is by now. But and then you can listen to rattles and clunks and squeaks wherever you put these transmitters. So someone at a dealership would probably want to invest in this. Whenever I worked at the dealership, I never needed to. I was always able to find whatever it was. Sometimes that tool would have saved me 30 minutes or so. I'll give you that. But, it's all in cost ratio relationship. I'm big on tools, but not so big on tools that I have to have everything. And I never went in head over heels debt over my tools. I always bought them responsibly, reasonably, as I needed. As I broke stuff, I bought better stuff, and I would always, see, I'm going off track again. I would always buy used lifetime warranty tools from auctions in person and online. Now, let's just not talk about noises anymore, because that's pretty much all of them. We can have anything else is going to be like suspension squeaks, right? If you can't differentiate, you probably shouldn't replace the wheel bearing yourself. Let's see if we can get the noise on the car now on this test drive. Now we're gonna be able to hear it almost immediately, at least I can. Right, I started hearing it at probably 10 miles an hour. It's getting more pronounced. Of course, it's gonna be more, it's difficult for me to hear, let alone over the camera. So right after I get past this stop sign, I'm gonna get up to probably, you really start hearing it roar at about 40 miles an hour. And of course there's a car coming my way. And you hear it kind of winding down. Now this road over here has some more bumps on it, so I'm gonna circle back around and I'm gonna see if I can't side to side. So the best way to diagnose it is just to take the weight of the body and roll it from side to side. Well, first we got to get to about 35-40 miles an hour. See, this isn't the easiest thing to do. Then we go. And it's very, very faint, very faint. I don't know if you're going to be able to slow it down or hear it. I don't know if I'm going to be able to slow-mo it and we can turn up the volume. I'll try to do all these things, but you can hear as you weight shift it. Let me just... And someone's coming my way again, so I can't drive like a maniac. So that's the hard part. You have to get on a perfectly smooth road, fast enough for the bearing to make noise, and then you have to drive like a maniac, rocking the whole vehicle weight back and forth. So you see, unless I'm doing like horsepower videos, I don't have any intention to mislead you. Okay, so what I find with these Audis, typically across the board, is the noise, the wheel bearing noise, is going to be coming from the front. The front, I would say, in my experience and what I've seen, probably well over 80% is if you have a wheel bearing, it's going to be one of the front, the driver front or passenger front. Not to say that the rears don't go bad, but in my experience, that's what's up. So I can kind of hear it from the front and the back as well, but that's hard to differentiate too. Sometimes for something like that, I would suggest, if you're trying to make money at a shop, to invest in a tool like chassis ears or some type of similar tool, because you can't be grabbing some other tech and say, hey, can you sit in the back seat and listen and this kind of stuff. I always had to figure out how to do things without asking for help, because this is another video as well. I got lots of these videos, but if you're the guy that always has to have this handheld, if you're always asking for help for stuff, look, the help, let's act like the help jar is like there's almost nothing in it, and by the time you pick too many out of it, there's none left. So you don't just go asking. You can wear people real thin by being the I need help all the time guy at the shop. Trust me.